the New Democratic Party.
Mr. Speaker, my question is for the Premier. A recent survey from the website rentals.ca shows that Nova Scotia has had the highest increase in the country in rental costs in the past year, up 35.5% across all property types, an average of $2,453, more expensive than the average rent in Ontario, and I'll table that. Mr. Speaker, by refusing to implement comprehensive rent control and enforcement and build non-market housing, the Premier is presiding over an explosion in rental costs. Can he see that the only people who are benefiting are the ones collecting the checks?
The Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Mr. We know the reality of the housing crisis that we have in this province. It's on the list of things that prior governments at all levels looked away from. Mr. Speaker, we're not looking away. We are getting busy making sure that housing stock is being built, that there are real, sustainable, long-term solutions to the housing crisis. It's a very distressing situation we have right now with the rents, for sure. We know that people are under pressure. We know that people are looking for long-term housing options. We know the stress it's causing on families. That's why we're getting to work to make sure that we get through this and have long-term solutions. That's what we'll continue to do, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the New Democratic Party on her first supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, it's getting worse and worse. Ms. Chelsea from Grand Lake recently wrote us to say, I'm in my mid-20s and I'm completely priced out of even dreaming of affording my own place. So thankful to my folks who are letting me stay with them, but it's difficult knowing that even though I work hard and save, I could never afford the combination of rent and groceries. Forget anything above that. As a young person who even with so much privilege is feeling the squeeze, it's enough to make me wonder if I should think of leaving Nova Scotia, something I've never even considered before in 24 years of living here. Can the Premier see that greasing the wheels for developers to build unaffordable housing, or housing stock, as the Premier calls it, isn't helping Chelsea or the many people in her situation?
The Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I know a number of young people who have similar concerns and sentiments for sure. But we need to focus on real solutions. That means building housing. The member might not like that, but that's what the answer to the housing crisis is. The answer to the housing crisis is more housing. That's why we're taking the steps we're taking. That's why we're putting initiatives through, and I know some of the HRM Council don't like it, the opposition don't like it, but I'll tell you who will like it, Mr. Speaker. Nova Scotians, when we build enough housing to fix the crisis.
The Honourable Leader of the New Democratic Party on her final supplementary.
The answer is building housing people can afford, which this government seems hell-bent on not doing. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to share another story. Terry Smith-Fraser is a full-time CCA who has worked in the healthcare sector for 30 years. She was recently rent-evicted from her apartment in Halifax and is now living in a van. Since then, she's noticed how many other people are sleeping in their vehicles. She said, with a housing crisis, I'm not sure what else people are supposed to do. Not only are the rents higher, but you need to make triple the income, and I'll table that. Last week, the Minister of Service Nova Scotia said that this government is continually looking at balancing the rights of landlords and tenants. Mr. Speaker, can the Premier see that the balance this government is looking at by failing to act is leaving Nova Scotians behind?
The Honourable Premier.
Oh, Mr. Speaker, in fact, balance is what is required to govern. We put a rental cap system in place. We'll look at other alternatives, rental supplements. We want to help Nova Scotians, and I would say to the member and to that Nova Scotian, we know that Nova Scotians are struggling. We know that CCAs in particular are struggling, ECAs. We know all these things, Mr. Speaker. That's why we took the steps we had to right the historical wrongs that have happened to CCAs over the years. That's why we will continue to try and make sure we support those Nova Scotians in terms of the wages of CCAs and others, Mr. Speaker. There are real issues with the housing crisis for sure. We need to build more housing stock to solve the housing crisis in this province. That's why we're focused on that. I encourage HRM Council and I encourage the member opposite to get behind this government on getting that done.